Good afternoon, everyone. It's Kirsten here for another Thursday Spa Business Break. So this Thursday, I would like to talk about women and leadership because it's a topic that I know a lot of you struggle with. And I totally feel ya because I've struggled with it as well. Despite always being the person, even when I was younger, that always tended to take charge and take the lead. I was always that one little girl, either with my siblings or with my friends, that, you know, we'd come up with some ideas and I'd be like, okay, let's go, let's make it happen. So it's kind of no surprise that I ended up in a leadership position, but you know, our own kind of natural leadership skills will only take us so far. And especially when we have a business, all of a sudden things kind of get really mixed up, and in terms of your own emotions and your own, your own insecurities pop up when you are asking yourself to step up and lead in your business, and especially with teams. Now, if you're a solo, you're not out of the woods in terms of leadership, because you are the leader of your business, obviously, and your clients are looking up to you to lead them, right? And so we often can come across issues with clients, client conflict, maybe even vendor conflict, perhaps, you know, conflict with your landlord. So we're always going to be met with opportunities to flex our leadership muscles. And unfortunately, as women, a lot of the leadership information out there, whether it's books or podcasts, there's not as much as there is for a more traditional style of leadership. And that would be, you know, I don't want to kind of get into like masculine versus feminine leadership, but there's definitely, I find, a different way of leading that women prefer. It tends to want to be a little bit more gentle, but still have, you know, effective boundaries and be able to get what you need accomplished. So I felt like it was really valuable to share some of the leadership books I feel are really strong for women, so that you can start learning a little bit more about your own leadership capabilities, learning about, you know, the dark side of your leadership. Because if we're not looking at the dark side and really willing to dig into that and ask questions about, why do I feel this way? Why is this such a trigger? Why does this issue keep coming up? If we're unwilling to be within that type of personal inquiry, leadership is going to be really a struggle for you consistently. So when it comes to, and I hear this a lot from spa owners, especially when they book calls with me to talk about coaching, that's one of the big pieces, especially with teams, is they just don't feel very confident as a leader. So we need resources, leadership resources that feel good for us, that give us tactics and tools and inquiry questions that we can kind of dig in and do some work on in order for us to feel more confident as a leader. Because once we feel that confidence, that's really the baseline of your success is confidence. If you don't have confidence in sales, look what happens. If you don't have confidence in your knowledge and kind of the impact that you can create for your clients and your community, you can be the best esthetician, you could be the best med spa in the area, but nobody will know about it because you don't have that confidence to kind of be visible and be visible and vocal about why your business, why your services, why your team delivers great results. So absolutely, lack of confidence will kneecap your success in every category. So if we're talking about, you know, just kind of getting better at business, leadership is absolutely a place where it's kind of like the big picture. You know, it's not super like tactical, you know, some of it is, but, you know, as far as like, okay, I'm going to commit to doing 3 social media posts, you know, that's very tactical, practical implementation. So when it comes to leadership, it feels a little bit more wishy-washy. And so that's why we need really good resources. All right. So the first one that I want to share with you, and if you've been following me for a while, or if you've worked with me, you absolutely know that this is a book that I've been recommending for a very, very long time. And there's a big reason for it, and it has to do with conflict. Almost every one of you that I have worked with has struggled with knowing how to deal with conflict. think about it in your personal life. If you don't like nobody likes dealing with conflict, but if you don't know how to deal with conflict effectively in your personal life, absolutely it will blow up in your face in your business. So this also works with your personal life. So the first book I want to recommend for you is William Ury, The Power of a Positive No. So this is going to be backwards, but you get the gist of it. Fantastic read. William Ury is he's highly skilled. He has helped, kind of warring countries come together and communicate. So he's done it with couples in horrible divorces. He's done it with businesses to help kind of sort things out. And the whole point of this book is to be able to very effectively, and he's got a very simple system, to be able to say a positive no. I'm not going to get into exactly how he does it, but it's basically, being able to get to a no and still feel good about it. All right. So if you struggle in your personal life, in your business with, saying no, and then you end up compromising yourself all over the place, this is the book you want to go to. It's an easy read. It's not difficult. And he has his yes, no, yes system. And then plan B, really easy to understand and absolutely a wonderful method to use in your personal life and business. So if you're struggling with, your team kind of like, hey, I want to go on vacation, or you've actually even a lot of stories I've heard, team says, I already booked my vacation. And it's more like telling you they're going on vacation. That stuff like that's infuriating. So if you're struggling with how to say no and still get to a yes so that both people are feeling positive, this is a great book. All right, the next book I feel is equally, if I could put both of these as number one, I would. The second book I've recommended many times. It is absolutely worthy of saying it again, and that is Tara Moore's book, Playing Big. It's called Playing Big, Practical Wisdom for Women Who Want to Speak Up, Create, and Lead. Tara Moore, her last name is M-O-H-R. Now, this book comes from the kind of corporate perspective, but there is some juicy stuff in here. Now, there are two chapters in particular that I felt are like, if I could have highlighted the whole chapter, I think I did most of it. But the first chapter that I felt like was like huge was talking about the inner critic. And the inner critic is a humongous jerk. Let's just get that straight. The inner critic is always just sitting on your shoulder, or however I envision mine. I've got this little avatar for my inner critic. You know the M&M commercials where you've got the chocolate M&M and the peanut M&M, and the peanut M&M guy, he's always cranky. That's my little avatar as far as my inner critic. He's cranky. He's always got some jerky thing to say about anything that I'm kind of thinking. So the inner critic is a great chapter in here. The other one that when I read it, I was like, boof, oh my gosh, this is like so true. And that is chapter 4, Unhooking from Praise and Criticism. That was a huge aha moment for me when I read this particular chapter, because as women, we are very, very much attached to praise and criticism. We're very much hooked in. And so imagine all this, once you kind of start thinking about how that works, think of all the places where you're hooked into praise, where you're hooked into criticism, and kind of you get yourself kind of stuck in situations because of that inability to unhook from praise and criticism. Now, unhooking from praise kind of sounds a bit weird. Why would I want to do that? But I see this happening a lot in the spa industry because we get so much fulfillment from giving to people. And when we get that feedback from our clients, oh my gosh, you are amazing. You are so great. You've changed my life. That is awesome. That feels wonderful for us. That is that fulfilling part. However, there is also a dark side to that. And I see this in the spa industry all the time, is that we get over connected to needing that praise. That's the only thing that's really filling us up in our business. And you can make decisions and get yourself into situations that actually aren't very healthy for you just because you're you're very much attached to needing that praise. One of them is that I see happens a lot is when service providers, whether they're solo or a team, are deciding to take services off their menu. And you're afraid of what, you're afraid to like let that go because there's a big part of us that loves the praise of it, right? You're going to get criticized. So it's all gets kind of messy inside our heads and inside our hearts. And so that is why I love that particular chapter about unhooking from praise and criticism, because I think that in the spa industry, we do have some unhealthy habits from keeping hooked into those pieces. So excellent book. I highly recommend it. The other chapters in there are just as good, but those were the two ones that really stood out for me. All right. The next one that I want to recommend is, of course, cannot forget Brené Brown when we're talking about leadership. Now, this particular one, Rising Strong, I think is very appropriate, particularly right now as some of us are coming out of the COVID kind of closures, being able to open up, and y'all kind of feel like you got knocked down quite a few pegs. Brené is absolutely not just for women, but I feel like her writing and her methodology is very open. It's very vulnerable. That is that key piece of, as women, we tend to be quite vulnerable and feel vulnerable. And so what do we do with that stuff when we're in conflict or when we need to change? So that is why I wanted to put Brené Brown, Rising Strong, on my top 5 leadership books for women. If you haven't read this yet, read it. If you've read it, read it again if you're kind of struggling right now with feeling knocked down. Okay, number 4. I find it really difficult to actually find books on women, leadership specifically. And if you have a favorite of your own that's not on my top 5 here, please pop it in the comments. I would love to, I'd love to build up my library of women in leadership. All right. My next one is Arlene Dickinson, Persuasion. She was one of the Canadian Dragon's Den TV shows. And again, a little bit more on the corporate side, but I feel like there is a lot of valuable little nuggets there that we can glean from in the spa industry. I feel like the book's called Persuasion, and I feel like as far as women in leadership, that can almost feel like an icky kind of word, but she takes the ickiness out of it because it's not icky. Persuasion is simply about communicating clearly and attempting to, bring somebody else's opinion over to our side or to kind of have a buy-in in it. So I think we can all probably use some tactics and stories around how, as women, we can feel more comfortable persuading in a really authentic, powerful, but, positive way. It's not, the intention is not to be able to persuade people, in a way that's going to harm them. It's being able to communicate clearly. That is what persuasion is. All right, the last one that I want to share with you is Amanda Steinberg, Worth It. What I really liked about this book was that it's all about money, women and money. And when it comes to leadership, we absolutely need to work into that conversation is money. I feel like that's another big place where we struggle with is feeling worth it, feeling like we really feel our value, and then are able to charge our value, to make offers based on our value. I've struggled with that probably my whole life. Some of you might find that surprising because I come across as very confident. I am confident, but there are still parts of me that still need work on and healing as far as worthiness. I'm getting there. So those are my top 5 books for women and leadership. If you're looking for just something to help support you, because when we're talking about leadership training, leadership support, we're also kind of hoping, like, can somebody just give us like tips and tricks and worksheets? Yes, there is some of that, but really when it comes to leadership, it's an inner game, and we have to do the inner work in order for there to actually be lasting, impactful changes when it comes to our leadership. So this might feel like, oh man, Kirsten, you got another thing for me to do. But if this is a priority for you, if you're just like, oh, I'm tired of feeling, not feeling confident, not knowing what to do, something has to change in my leadership, I just need something, starting with a book is a really, really great idea. If you want to start with any of the books I recommended, I absolutely recommend starting with Tara Moore's Playing Big, right? One of the things I have noticed about this list, and I'm actually I'm a little bit appalled, is that I don't actually have any leadership books from Black, Indigenous, or persons of color authors. So I would absolutely, if you have read one that you love and want to share that, please do in the comments. After this, I'm actually going to be doing my own little research just to see what else I can find. So I do have one that I'm halfway through reading, Layla Saad. It's called Me and White Supremacy. And of course, that's not kind of a business leadership book, but it's absolutely about my own personal leadership. So that's really the only one I have so far, and that's not good enough. Totally not good enough. So I need some more resources from our Black, Indigenous, and people of color community. All right, that's it for me for today's Thursday Spa Business Break. I will be back next Thursday at noon Pacific. We'll see you then. Bye.